Welcome to the Corvette Chronicle 5. Today we're going to discuss the different ways to bleed brakes. There is gravity bleeding, there's vacuum bleeding, there's pressure bleeding, and then there's the two-person method. That's the pump and hold method for somebody to be in the car and pumping the brake pedal, and then you open the bleeder valves. I've got this set up right now. This is a catch bucket because we don't want brake fluid on this lift as much as possible. I've got it set up for gravity bleeding. I've double checked the master cylinder to make sure that it's full, and we're going to start with the caliper that's as far away from it as possible. So we're going to just open our bleeder valve. We're going to make sure this is open, and I hope you can see it on the video. There's fluid that's going to start running down into this bucket, and we're just going to let it go, and the pressure of the air acting on the master cylinder and the master cylinder being higher than the brake caliper will begin to force fluid through the system. It's a very slow way to do things, so we're not going to sit here and watch all of it. I will cut back to it after we get done. Okay, if you watched my master cylinder video, you'll recognize this setup. This is a hand vacuum pump. You've got a catch can with some vacuum hoses, and it's all attached to the bleeder. We're going to use this pump to physically move fluid from the master cylinder all the way through the lines, through this caliper, into this catch can. So this is the next type of bleeding. So what we do is we're going to put a little vacuum on the system. There it says I'm pulling 20 inches of mercury in vacuum. We're going to open the bleeder valve. I know it's hard to see because these hoses are getting some age on them, but there's fluid going in here. So I can keep pulling because I hear air bubbles coming through that line. And you can see how it's filling up in that. So as long as I keep pumping, it's going to keep pulling vacuum through this thing. Hold this up here. See that stuff coming through there? There's a big air bubble. But see, this is a very nice way to be contained and very sanitary with your brake bleeding. Now when I get done with this canister, it tells me I have pulled, right now I'm at 70 milliliters of brake fluid through the system. See, I don't know if you can see all the air bubbles coming through here, but I'm getting quite a few air bubbles still. But the fluid's pretty clean, and that came from the fact that we had pre-bench bled the master cylinder. Okay, I'm going to let it go back to 0. Shut the bleeder valve. I'll dump this in my waste container. And I'll also refill the master cylinder because we never want to do this more than once without refilling that, because we suck it all the way dry and we suck air in the system. It's just we have to restart, and that's not good time management. Okay, now we're at the left rear of the car, which in this type of brake setup, you move from right rear to left rear because it's the next farthest in line. So I'm going to pull some vacuum on here. We'll open the bleeder valve and we're going to continue our same process. Okay, now we're here at the right front because it's the next longest brake line, so this is where we're going to start next. and we're going to get the gravity bleeding started. And this one may take a while because we had both front calipers off for so long that those steel lines may have lots of air in them. So we're going to watch that go, and then we'll vacuum bleed it. And we get that done, we'll move to the left front and hopefully have all the bleeding done on this. We'll check the brake pedal, see how it feels, and make sure everything's working when we get done with that. Okay, the gravity bleeding was taking so long, we're going to help it along with a little bit of vacuum bleeding because it may have enough air in it and the way these brake lines are run that it isn't going to come out. So now I'm starting to get some fluid finally. You can see how much it took me and how long it took to get this. And I'm going to leave this in full normal speed so you guys can see how long it took to get fluid to come down here. So now we'll put the gravity bleed on and see if it'll actually go now. After all that vacuuming, I went and checked the master cylinder, and it had maybe a 1/4 inch of fluid left in it. So that tells you how much fluid stays in this system. So now we see we got a nice trickle coming out here. I'll get around here to where I can look. I don't see any air bubbles coming out. There was a little teeny tiny one left. So I'm going to say that we got all the air out of this side. So we only got one left to do. And that's the closest one to the master cylinder. So hopefully it doesn't take so long. So we'll get transferred over there. Okay, I topped the master cylinder back off because this car, being a rear wheel drive from the 70s, has what's known as a front and rear split. The front calipers share the same half the reservoir on the master cylinder, and the back calipers share the same reservoir on the master cylinder, and there's a double pistons in there that create the brake pressure. So if we have a ruptured brake hose or a caliper that leaks all the brake fluid out of it, it only leaks it out of half the system and you still have partial braking. So with that being said, let's see how the gravity bleed goes on this one. So I'm going to turn it on and we'll see if we get any fluid to start coming out of it. Well, as you can see, this process takes a long time, and as you can also hear, Mother Nature decided to open up the monsoon season for us here in the state of Kansas. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the vacuum bleeder just like I did the other side to get the fluid move. Oh, there it is. See, it didn't take near as long as the other side. I spoke too soon. So we'll let it trickle a little bit, and then I'll put the vacuum bleeder on it. We get the brakes done on this car. We'll fire it up with the current plugs and wires situation in it, and hopefully be able to catch the smoke coming out the tailpipe. Plus, then you guys get to hear it. You've watched it and seen it, and you are probably wondering what it really sounds like with these individual headers running out to a common collector outside with 4-inch pipes with 0 mufflers in them. And if my opinion means anything, it sounds really good. It plays the song of my people well. So, okay, well, now we got the brake fluid trickling out. We will go ahead and hook up the vacuum bleeder and see if we can't suck the rest of the air out of that. Okay, moment of truth. I'm going to crawl up in there and see what the brake pedal feels like. And I may start it and see how the vacuum booster goes. But as you can hear, it's got that wonderful 1970s era piezo buzzer telling me the keys are in the ignition. If that's not annoying enough to remind you to take them out, I don't know what is. Brake pedal feels pretty good. I may get an assistant to come over and help me do one final bleeding by them pumping the brake pedal and holding it down, but after feeling what it felt like driving up here, I could push it all the way down to the floor once and then had to pump the brakes and I only had half as good a brake pedal. So this feels much better. Pump the quadrijet a few times to set the choke. Use the accelerator pump to prime it because it's been sitting here a while. Let's see what happens. Somehow the wipers got turned on. Fire in the hole. Okay, if you noticed, you saw the great big cloud of smoke that come out. I told you this thing's been running rich on that one side. So, that'll be what we attack in the next issue of the Corvette Chronicle. We've got the brakes bled out good enough that I think we could drive it again. Like I said, I may have it one more try, and I don't know if I'll film that or not. But, it at least is not leaking anymore, and it's safe. And the vacuum booster was working good. It was a much softer pedal again. So, I think we've created a successful repair.